You're listening to the Primal Happiness Show, a podcast dedicated to helping you thrive in this crazy modern world. Every Tuesday, we explore the nature of how our minds really work, what exactly the human animal requires to thrive, and how we can live happier and more fulfilling lives. If you're new here and haven't yet taken our free class, then there's no better place to get a jump start on reclaiming your primal happiness. It's where we'll guide you step by step through our antidote to today's modern world. Simply head on over to primalhappiness.co/antidote to get the free class and discover how to thrive without having to move to a planet that's not so crazy as ours. But now, your host, Leanne Brooke-Tyler.
Hello, my beautiful people. A huge warm welcome back to the show. In today's crazy modern world, men and women are living shallow, disconnected, and unfulfilling lives. So we created the path for those who are ready to reclaim their wildness and actualize their deepest gifts. And the next way that you can walk this path is by joining us for the new evolution of Waking the Wild Sovereign, which begins next month. This is our most intimate crucible, and it's currently the only way to work with us one-to-one. It is the way to free yourself from conditioning and wounding, discover and express your unique gifts, open your heart, and follow your soul path, becoming the sovereign man or woman you came here to be. It is almost full now. There is only one place left, and we're in conversation with several people feeling called to it. So this is your last chance if you feel it could be for you too, in which case go along to primalhappiness.co/WTWS to discover more and arrange a call to explore it with one of us. And now on to this week's show, and it is with Lynne Forrest. Lynne is regarded as a non-traditional psychotherapist who's been in private practice for over 25 years, is widely known as a reality guide and personal growth mentor for her empathy, compassion, and a no-nonsense approach in dealing with life issues. She uses ancient spiritual principles to help those who struggle to find their way into right alignment with themselves and their life purpose. Her original work in recognizing victim consciousness as a widespread epidemic with its own set of definable and recognizable characteristics has revolutionized her approach with clients and transformed the lives of many. She's developed a unique understanding of how the mind works and ways to liberate it from the throes of what she calls the victim mind. In this show, we spoke about the victim triangle, which is based on the drama triangle originally created by Dr. Stephen Karpman. This was a show that is, how can I say this? Like deeply, deeply personal to me and to our work at Waking the Wild. The victim triangle is something that we work with a lot. And so I was absolutely thrilled to be able to have this conversation with Lynn. This was an opportunity for me to really geek out. So we got into how that victim triangle is really about ancient human stories and archetypes. And of course, how we can move from being on that victim triangle into what Lynn calls observer consciousness and what we call sovereignty. This is such a juicy, deep episode. Can't wait for you to hear it. Let's dive in. Hello, Lynn. A huge welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning. It's good to be here. Truly, truly.
Good morning. I was just saying to you that I've been a real fan of you and your work since I came across it. And this notion of the victim triangle is one that I am constantly referring to with personally, with my friends, with our clients and students. It's become something that has like taken this whole kind of life within other things that we're doing and talking about. It's like this foundation that really keeps wanting, like calling us back to it. And so the opportunity to have you on the show and explore how you just spoke just before we started recording, how this is like coming through you. This is work that's been coming through you for the last 40 years. And so the opportunity to talk to you about that is something I'm delighted about. So I can't wait.
Well, I too am excited. I love it when we're both excited. It's nice to be being interviewed by someone who's familiar enough with the work that we can drop deep and go far. That's what I'm anticipating. So thank you very much for this opportunity, Leanne.
Oh, we are going to have fun. We are. So you were talking just before we hit record about, for you, starting with how I think you said something like almost like perfectly set up to be on the victim triangle. And that felt for you an important place to start. So let's start there.
Oh, yes. Well, so that presupposes that people have an understanding of what the victim triangle is. I may have misled you around that. So let me just give that real quick, just a quick synopsis, and then we'll talk about what I see the victim triangle. It's a triangle. It's a diagram that was created by Dr. Stephen Karpman back in the 70s, and that was early 70s, and that was when I first came across it. I was working with clients at the time in a social work setting, and so I immediately could see the relevance of it. Like I think you said to me that very thing of how it's not something you have to figure out really when you begin to learn these three. Basically what they are is defense strategies that we take on out of a core belief about who we are in the world, who we are in our family, who we are, an identity that we take on based on the feedback we're getting from the world around us, but also from the DNA pattern that we carry in our bones. You know, it is, epigenetics is moving more and more in the direction of recognizing that these core beliefs, these are beliefs about, you know, what we can expect from life and how important we are and what will happen to us if. These are built in, they go back 40 generations. These beliefs have been handed down, and our parents come together because they are sort of energetically drawn to one another because their patterns will match. There will be a reciprocity in patterns. So this couple comes together, creates a unit. Now we have children. Our children have both belief systems inherited in our DNA. We are going to react out of particular patterns. Now that doesn't mean, so we all have that encoding. It doesn't mean we act every one of them out in a particular lifetime, but it just does mean that we have plenty of material. So we are actually set up. It's like to arrive here as what I call helpless baby victims. That's a form of victim. It's the helpless baby. It's the one who can't take care of themselves. The one who, and literally every single one of us came here. I mean, well, who do you know so far? You know, cloning is growing invitation, it seems. But so I don't know how that will affect what I'm saying here right now. But what I'm saying is that every single one of us come with all this coded in our DNA, and and then we're born into family with parents who come from the same lineage of belief, and they will then show us how to live it on the ground through their defense strategies, through their concepts about themselves and about God and about the world and everything in it. We watch these people, and so we're being triggered, and the core belief that comes up will become the thing that drives us, and that from there we go to the victim triangle. That's the playing field where we play out the story we've been scripted with. Now, why in the world would we be scripted? That's the question that came up for me, and I have recognized that there's a purpose for it, that it is actually part of our expansion process. It's part of our process of awakening, of becoming conscious, is to awaken from the story that we created about this limited story about who we are. We're here with the opportunity to recognize, make conscious, and begin to participate in that story so that we can actually use the same tools that we're using to keep us in it. We use those same tools to liberate ourselves. We just point it in a different direction. I know I've said a lot, and I hope that was succinct and
oh, that was beautiful. That's beautiful. And I'm going to ask you some questions about that last part you just said in a moment, but something that really hit me at a deeper level as you were talking, and you were talking about story, is I love archetypes. I love myths. I love stories. And for me, they're that language of the soul that allows me to experience something in a deeper way. And when I came across your work around taking the drama triangle and renaming it the victim triangle, suddenly and I don't know why, because it's the same words, but suddenly those positions on the triangle came alive for me as archetypes. Like, these are archetypes that are beyond someone just saying like, oh, this is a pattern of behavior and we're just going to give it a name. These are our energetic patterns that have played out archetypally in human consciousness and potentially beyond and before for, probably all of human history. And I suddenly saw that, like, oh, this is deep truth. This isn't just like a nice way to talk about it. Like, there's deep archetypal truth here, which when you were talking, you were naming story. I was just like, oh, yes, I'm seeing that even more deeply now. Like, this really is like deep human truth being played out, but also deep human untruth. Like you said, there's this story that we are telling ourselves, and then there's something else beyond that available. So I just wanted to share that because the way you spoke about it really brought that alive for me at another level than I'd seen it before.
That's so beautifully said, Leanne, and I get excited listening to you speak from that level, because it really is. It's basically those three positions on the victim triangle, and it's an upside down triangle. Let's see. Let me share the screen really quickly with you and show it to you, to those who are looking. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. There we go. Can you see it? Tell me if you can see.
Yes, I can.
So let's pull it up close. Oh, well, I can't get it to work on this. Let's see what's going on. Well, anyway, you can see here that the shape of it basically is the thing I want to show you, since I can't seem to, it's not working when I hit play. So I don't know how to bring it up. But you can see that there's the three, and what these are, and it's this triangle actually has the core beliefs of each. Each one of these archetypes have their own lens through which they see the world. And we have them all. The human consciousness holds all three of these defense strategies. It's like, and they come from the universal human core belief that we all share. And that is basically that it shouldn't be like that. It should be different. The basic core belief is that I am not going to be taken care of. I'm not safe here. I am separate from. It's me against the world. As soon as we buy into what in consciousness work we recognize, let me turn this off and come back to you. Yeah. Hold on.
I think I may have done it. Let me know.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Yeah, so what I lost my brain there. I thought what I was
you were saying these are true in all human, like these are kind of patterns or beliefs held in human consciousness.
All humans hold these three, and it's like as soon as we decide that I am separate, that I am separate from that which sourced me, that which and source, who we are comes through the breath. I mean, just try sustaining life without the breath. So with every breath, we're breathing in that which sources us, duh. And if you think about being a projection of that breath being as the ancients said, the Essenes, the Hermetics, well, going all the way back really to the Egyptian history, the alchemists who believed that all creation, everything, all 400 billion galaxies plus, however many there are happening in the one mind of the universal source. And so we're in it. We're moving in the field of it. And we're breathing it in. That's who we are and where we come from. We come from that place, so that we have our own unique consciousness. And we come into a vehicle that is fully downloaded to take us on a ride. That we, in collaboration, because we're told we're co-creators, we co-collaborate with that one mind. And before we even get here, it's all set up that we're going to fall into this story and take this ride. And then awakening is to become conscious that we are on the ride.
Yeah.
And to begin to use defense strategies. Because when I decide I'm separate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide one of three things, or all of these three things, depending on the moment and what I need to do to protect myself. Because now it's like me against the world. I'm separate. I got to figure out how I'm going to survive here. So, all right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be helpless and cute. We come in scripted to be that, right? That's the helpless baby. Somebody will take care of me. But the thing about it is I buy into my helplessness. And then I begin to feel and act as if it's true. And then I become the helpless baby. Or the second, and these are maturation levels, I come in helpless, needy. I then, around 2 or 3 years old, I begin to, get angry, and it's mine, take that, just, I'm going to bully. I'm going to push my way through. And so that archetype kicks in, and it's programmed to do that. We go through these developmental stages. These are defense strategies we're acquiring. And then the third is the 7 or 8 year old. I always get this image of a child, 7 or 8, saying, I know how to do that. I can do that for you. It is that whole, I'll take care of you, and that will be the way you take care of me. I'll get taken care of by taking care of you. And so and frankly, that's about rescuer, which is what that archetype is, that place is about as good as it gets in terms of maturity on our planet. We haven't really grown beyond that.
Yeah.
This is the way I see it. After 40 years of working with individuals and families, presenting this model and watching how it gets played out in their family, watching how the stories come down. I've actually worked with clients 3, and now we're beginning, the 4th generation is beginning to be born.
Oh, wow.
Of grandmothers, parents, grown children, and now their babies of the same family. So I've been able to watch. And what I've noticed is that no matter how awake an individual may become, we all have this story. We're set up. And so when we can make peace with it, instead of see it as a problem, this is really what I want people to know. That when we can accept that this is part of what we came to do, then we can actually learn how to use this story as opportunity to recognize how I'm attracting it, how am I this manifester? How am I creating? And what would I like to create instead? What would I like to feel here? How would I like to do? And again, I go on and on. Thank you for listening.
Oh, it just gold. It really is. It's no problem at all to listen to you. So there's a few different things that came up as you're talking. So I'm trying to decide which is the first thing. I feel like you talking about, I think you name it like starting gate. You talk about how we kind of have almost like a home place on the triangle that we typically start out. Would you mind just explaining that first? And then I'd love to explore more about what you name as observer consciousness, when you start to be able to see yourself in these places. But I think having that understanding of the starting gate might be helpful first, if you agree.
Yeah, so the starting gate is just the phrase I put to that, the position on the triangle that each of us tends to see the world through. What lens? Because as I mentioned, I may have mentioned a minute ago when I was showing that diagram, that each of those persecutor, rescuer, victim, each of those archetypes, as you call them, each of those roles have a particular lens that is their basic operating belief system. And for the victim, it is a belief system that says, I can't take care of myself. I just can't do it. I need somebody else. I need to know. I need for them to do it for me. And that becomes a way of life. It becomes a way of life. It becomes the character that that person takes on. And they may play it in a myriad, very unique way, because we are amazing in our ability to take these basic strategies and do so much painful stuff to nonetheless. I mean, no less, but creative, and all designed because what I was handed as a child is a set of universal laws that I use to sort of translate. So the starting gate position is taking on that particular archetype. Like if it's the victim, I take that on, and that becomes how I move through life as a quote helpless baby, for instance, where I'm constantly, and I know how to. I'm a professional at it because I know how to use it to protect myself.
Yes, like strategies and skills get built up around it in order to enable that to kind of. What I think might be helpful to name now, because this really was something that was brought to life through your work that I hadn't seen in such a powerful way when I originally came across the drama triangle, is when these archetypes can be played out in ways that are like so obvious. We can look at other people and go, of course, that's where they're living their entire life from, and it's kind of so clear that's what's happening. And they've almost become like more of a stereotype at this point, or a caricature of an archetype. And if you're someone who, you know, has been on the path of self-illumination and consciousness for a while, it's easy to think like, well, I'm not that, therefore I'm not on the drama triangle. I may have been once, but I'm not now, and I'm certainly not like that person who's clearly, you know, a victim. And there was something that I saw in the way that you're talking about this that was subtler. It's the same archetypes playing out, but it allowed me to recognize the places that it wasn't as obvious. It wasn't like my whole life is writ large with this archetype, but there were these places that absolutely I am go still on that triangle, but just in ways that needs
more subtle, more
subtle lens to see. And so I'd love to hear you talk about that, because listeners may think, well, you know, I've looked at the drama triangle, quite frankly, you know, I can't see myself on it. So I'd love you to talk about that, like more nuanced way of seeing it, please.
The first thing is that all humans, this is what the human mind does. It moves through those strategies. It moves through those strategies. We pick a starting gate, whether it's the bully, which is the persecutor that, you know, takes on the core belief that that the world is not safe, and I've got to get you before you get me. And so I'm moving through life like that, not aware that I'm a bully. I don't see myself that way, but it's an archetype. And so the first thing to know is that we move around all three of those. The rescuer is the one that, and the first place we do this triangle is within ourselves. It starts there.
Yes. Oh, beautifully.
And then gets projected out into a starting gate role that we will play out. And the wonderful thing about this model is that really, if it does require a total willingness to be honest with ourselves, but it's really or growing willingness. Actually, it doesn't, because it doesn't take. It's not very difficult to see that we're on the triangle. And one of the beautiful ways we've used this model with children, I developed a process for kids, and we used to do family camps where my family was all part of the staff. We would bring families in and work with the children and the parents, and I would teach them these things that I'm sharing with you here, and then the kids had their own, and we would take them age 4 and up. We found that children at the age of 4 can comprehend the victim triangle, and that they are, because they're so honest and so willing to drop their story. We're a little more attached to our stories as adults. We've been practicing them a long time. We really believe on some level they work for us, although they do not. They are the source of our true misery. But children, on the other hand, they're able to see it and call it I can do a 15-minute presentation to the kids, have done it many times, and say at the end of 15 minutes, do any of you, of these 3 roles, are there any bullies in your family or any helpless babies? And they will immediately, and even the child who's a bully can see themselves in bullying. Wow. And be able to move there without having shame about it, because it's where we go. We're going to go there on the triangle. So if you're there, and what can you learn from being there, and if you can, you recognize that you're going to move on around the process, and you're very likely to move from bully to victim, helpless, because somebody will bully you. Because when you push, it invites someone who feels victimized by your push to come in and push you back.
Yeah.
And so now you're moving around the triangle as a bully. Is this what you want? And kids are like, well, it's like one 8-year-old said to me when I was speaking to him about that. He said, why has no one ever told me this before?
I love that. Wow.
Like, dag.
Yeah. My goodness, it's so powerful. I was just thinking, in the way that you were just talking about then, there's something so both humbling and also compassionate in recognizing the ways that we do this, because I think it can be, before we are able to see that this is true for all of us, I think it's really easy to make wrong either ourselves or others, as in like, oh, they're just a helpless victim, and almost like that's better, that's worse than where I am. But until we see them, I think that's again what's so powerful about you naming the whole thing, the victim triangle. For me, that was like, because my typical kind of place on the victim triangle isn't the victim. In fact, I'd done everything I could never to be the victim, of course, still being it at points. And it was something.
Good luck with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it was it blew my mind when I saw the whole thing named as a victim triangle. It was just like, oh, okay. That changes things.
Well, yeah. And the way I see it is those 3 roles on the victim triangle are the 3 faces of victim consciousness. So we have victim consciousness, and what we want to move to observer consciousness. Observer consciousness is when we see it. We don't get rid of it. Good luck with that. These are programs. They are deeply entrenched. And so what we learn how to do is, number 1, take radical responsibility for ourselves, recognizing that I am driving this and what I want to do, and not to blame myself. Because to really get off the victim triangle, the first thing we have to do is be willing to put down blame. And the only way to do that is to begin to accept ourselves when we find ourselves on that triangle.
Yeah.
And the only way I've found to do that is to understand where it comes from and what it's about. We bring understanding in. And that's why I wanted to start today with, let's just go all the way back to how you got here on this triangle. Yeah. And then you can let go of the need to make it a problem.
Yeah.
Make it a bad thing, make it a wrong thing. You begin to go, okay, if I was programmed to experience this story, then there must be reason. There must be purpose. And so I grew up in a metaphysical family. My mother was a spiritual teacher.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, she was an amazing woman. And she handed us, the three of us, universal laws from, we started learning about metaphysics. I remember my first conversation at age 7 with her. That might have been before that, but that was the first one I really remembered. And so, and she handed down works, and one of the main works was called the Kabbalion.
Oh, yes.
Kabbalion. Not the Kabbalah, but the Kyba.
Yes.
And it is basically, it's just a textbook written anonymously that has has 7 universal principles in it. And so I grew up on that. And then when I began to really learn and study the work in terms of working with others, began to work with others and bring principles in, and I reached for those universal laws and came up with a list of 10 that I see most often serve as the foundation for moving us beyond victim consciousness. The way we move beyond it is to begin to, we're looking at it through a lens already. We're looking at it through a lens of scarcity, of limitation, of there's something wrong here, I'm not safe, of I'm separate, we're seeing the world through that lens. And when we see the world through a lens, we feel the feelings that go with seeing it that way. And then we react as if it's true, that our feelings are true. And what we end up doing, this is how we drive, this is how we create our reality. We then project that energy out in the form of emotion, which then attracts that of equal emotion, of that same frequency level, that will play the reciprocal role of mirroring to us what it is we're believing, and we'll use the victim triangle, and we'll do it on the triangle. So by recognizing when we're on the triangle, because that's the playing field, when we recognize where we are, then we can begin to ask questions like, well, what am I believing? You know, I love Byron Katie's work for this, because she does a 4-question turnaround kind of thing. And to me, it's a very quick way of accessing observer consciousness.
Yes.
Want to stand back.
Yeah. What am I thinking that's creating this? I love that. I love the way that you've, I too love the Kybalion and look at life a lot through that lens. But the way you were just talking about, the way that will kind of attract that polarity and put that onto the victim triangle, I think is so powerful.
That's the purpose of the victim triangle. And it's all
it allows us to do it. Yes. It's
that's
like right. It has
it's a tool. It's a tool. It's a tool for producing shadow. And there's a reason, so it's dark and it's unhappy and it's fear-based. But when you are made of love, the only way you're going to be able to see something you project out is for it to be the opposite of love. You're from the light. Your story is going to be the limited of darkness. And this is how, but you see, it's the two sides, the yin yang of the polarity between fear and love. And the self that we come in coded to create. And we are very much the co-creators of it. The energy comes from source. We get to direct it by whatever lens we choose to see it through. That is what shapes it.
I love what you said earlier about the not making ourselves wrong for the times where we notice we're on that victim triangle, because, and I think you named this actually just before we started recording, but I think it's really worth highlighting again now, because as soon as we do that, as soon as we blame ourselves, we're then straight into the role of persecutor. But I'm unlikely to say that because we're so entrenched back into the victim triangle. So I'd love you to say a bit more about that, because I've noticed that is such a human tendency to kind of have a level of understanding of this where we start to see ourselves on it, but then not feel able to bring love to that recognition, and then end up, straight onto the persecutor. So I think anything you can say on that's really helpful, because I see that happening over and over again. So yeah, I'd love you to say more.
That it is a process. It's a lifetime process. You came to take the ride, and it will take, and so what I'm saying all that because it's about accepting ourselves where we are in the process. And it's about understanding that, again, the law of cycles plays out here. That's one of the spiritual precepts. It's that basically says we're on a wheel. We're on a wheel that from here, we're starting here in this vehicle that is a wheel that is moving up, down, forward, back, up, down, forward, back. It's going around. And so if you put the two triangles on the wheel, and you put the downward facing, the limited story self in that lower downward facing triangle at the bottom of the wheel, and you take the other, the upright, and you put it at the top of the wheel, and that is who you are as observer consciousness, as that's who you are, remembering who you are.
Oh, I love that.
And so yeah, and so then what happened is you're going to go, the wheel is going to move if you're going to make progress. You cannot get to there by sitting here with just, okay, you're frozen in this position. I only allow I only allow me to be up at the top of the wheel, never go down. You will not go anywhere.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is learn how to just recognize that we're on the wheel. And when we go down in here, if we are awake about it and don't need to make it a problem and judge it, then we are fully awake to observe it. We can go, whoa, I'm in that dynamic that I play out over and over again with men, for instance. And here I am again doing that thing. I'm married to, what is it I'm married to? What am I believing? I won't be safe unless I have a man, and so I have to give myself up for him. Okay, there's a story. So, but it's a story that I want to own. And as soon as I can go, whoa, I'm in a story, I have already taken a step back.
Yes. And that's
I'm
something
already moving in the right
celebrating.
direction. Yeah, that's me. I'm already in observer consciousness, even if I still do the pattern.
Yes, I love that.
But now I'm watching me do the pattern. And I'm learning as I watch, observer. That means not making it a problem. Observer consciousness does not see a problem. It sees a process. It sees an opportunity. It sees an opportunity to refine. And until we can really practice that with ourselves, we are stuck sort of on the wheel. We can't go anywhere because I can't allow myself to be down in it. So I have to go blind and ignore and deny that I'm down at the bottom of the wheel. I can't tell anybody, or have to pretend that I'm not, right? I know I'm passionate about all this. It's just so clear to me. And I so know what freedom it brings when we understand it.
Do not apologize for your passion. I absolutely love it. So a couple of things occurred to me. I may have misheard what you've just said, but it sounded as though you said there's a triangle, as above, so below. There's a triangle in observer consciousness that mirrors the positions of the triangle in the victim consciousness. Would you talk more about that triangle, please?
Yes.
The one that's in the observer consciousness.
Do you think we can share the screen?
Yes,
I will show you that. I have to pull this up, and then oh, I see. Okay, I just read they've just upgraded, or I just downloaded the upgraded, and so I'm actually learning some things I didn't know before. So here, can you? Okay, are you seeing the screen now? So you see that one. Let's go down here to this one right here. Yeah, here we go. This is the upward facing triangle, and I sure wish I could make it Shift key. I don't know how to make it bigger. It worked fine when I wasn't on Zoom, but this just seems to be a picture of rather than the actual keynote. So it's not working. But anyway, the three positions, what it is if you think about the lower face, the downward facing triangle, these are the shadow sides. This is the light side of that yin yang marriage between the two. So, and when they're both together, they create, where is it? Here it is. Can you see this?
Oh, beautiful.
So now you've got the diamond.
Yes.
So the three has become four. And so it's the yin yang, it's the polarity. Now it's made into oneness. And so these are going to be, so if the victim is the helpless baby, then and what we've got, the opposite of the victim is the co-creator, is the one who absolutely knows that they're the ones creating this reality. It's not, I don't know, I can't help it, I need you to do it because I just can't, I don't, and you need to give it, you're not giving it to me, so it's not me begging someone to create the world I want for me. It's me recognizing that I'm the co-creator. And that is where the seat of the observer consciousness right there. So so we go into the victim archetype in order to fully learn it. One of the reasons that I know as much as I do now, yes, I've been working with families for 40 years. And so, yes, I've seen it a lot on the ground, but really I've learned it most from going into victim myself. The victim archetype has been such a teacher for me and continues to be. Because it's not like you get over and you never do the victim triangle again. It is part of your makeup. You just learn how to use it. You learn how to use it to refine. You learn how to use it to transform that victim into co-creator. Well, what would I like instead? What if I didn't believe that I was totally helpless at the mercy of life around me and those around me? What if I believe that this is all... it's sort of like, I tell people this all the time. It's like Halloween's coming up, right? And what do we like to do at Halloween? We like to go through haunted houses and scary places. We have it built into as a holiday into our life. Every year we get to freak ourselves out, right? It is in the human psyche. And we might be standing in the line to get in the carrier that's going to take us through those dark things, or where skeletons will unexpectedly jump up in front of you and something will slap you in the head and all those things will happen. And we're talking about how scared we're going to be, and we would not get out of that line for the world.
Yes. Wow, I love that.
And this is what we're doing here on planet Earth. We're having the ride. We're having the adventure we came to have. We did not come here. We are not wusses. We did not come here to arrive at this place where we just live right there forevermore. We've arrived and the world is giving it to us and it's somebody else. No, we're here to wake up and recognize the co-creators that we are. And so that's what the lower, and so the upper is the recognition of that. And then out of that, there is a balance. Because another way to look at this triangle is as a fulcrum. The victim being the fulcrum for the two archetypes, the two extremes, the bully or the rescuer, the two opposites. So really what you're doing is by playing that out in consciousness you actually transform it.
It's a real alchemy, isn't it?
It is absolute alchemy. It becomes this star of integration.
Oh my goodness. This is so yummy. It's so yummy. Do you want me to turn off screen share again?
Yeah.
I'm checking before you in case there's something else you wanted to share. But
no, I think that's amazing. Good. I think that's the one to end it on. And you see that self in the middle, the lotus with the self.
Yes, it's so beautiful.
That is not the either or. It's not now I've gotten rid of the bad and I'm only the good. No, I'm a fabric. It's been finely created and by my consciousness. with awareness that I'm the one doing it. Not to say,
Yes.
oh, this is just self-blame. This is just beat yourself up, victim bash, or victim bash others who are. No, it's about understanding this is a path of enlightenment, of awakening, of remembering who we are. And that's what it has turned into me after 40 years of working with this model.
Wow. What a beautiful way to end this episode.
Thank you. Wow.
I feel
so delightful.
so moved. Thank you so much, Lynn. Honestly, this has just been gorgeous. Even I knew I'd get so much out of speaking to you, but this is taking it to a whole nother level than I was expecting. So yeah, thank you so much. And just for the work you do in the world. Amazing. So needed. Really is.
Well, take it in and spread it around, would you, Leanne?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Put it out there and tell them to come see me. Tell them to tell. I have a webpage. I have a blog that has 600 some pages.
Goodness me. Well, on that note, we spoke at the beginning about what you might find might feel come the end of our conversation is going to be most useful to direct listeners to. So please share whatever you think is going to be most helpful as the next step.
All right. Well, so the universal law of reflection is one that says that what you see out here is a mirror of your relationship with yourself. And so again, learning the universal laws and beginning to take those I call them guiding principles. I've taken 10 of universal laws, not by any stretch all the universal laws, but universal law simply means that they are true no matter in what situation, what circumstance, where it's always true. And so those 10, I would recommend that, and I would love to make that available. I think we'll send a link for that, or send Jaquetta will work that out so that you can be, and people can begin to actually, you listeners can begin to use and apply, look at how is it true. If this were a mirror, this situation that I'm so angry with so and so, and they did this to me, and I know all about what they did to me. But what it is I'm not recognizing is the story I have about them, the energy I walked in with when I'm believing my story, because it's called the reality formula in this work, and it goes like this. When you believe what you think, the reality formula, the way we create reality is when we believe our thought, we marry it. And when we marry it, we take its ride. And that means we feel the feelings that go with it, and we react out of it as if it's true. And when we feel and act as if what we believe is true, we project it out in the world, and it will be projected back to us, and we will gather the evidence that proves it true. And it's only always true. It's an example of a universal law. It's always true. It's just always true. So to begin to recognize what our story is, recognize where we are on the triangle, and then to pull a guiding principle and say, let me look at it through this lens instead of that lens. I think that's the thing.
Wonderful. So we'll make sure this is on the show notes.
And also I have a book out. It is at Amazon. You can get it. It's just look up my name, or it's Life Beyond Victim Consciousness. So I would recommend that. It's a great textbook in terms of it breaks the process down in step by step, so you can actually work the process as you go through the book. So that's available. Those are the steps I would recommend.
Perfect. Yes, we'll make sure links to all of that is on the show notes. And I could not. And also, let me know if you agree, Lynn, but I think your article where you break all of this down is it's probably called something like the victim triangle.
The face is a victim. The face
That's
is a victim.
Would you recommend that as a good place to start?
On my website, you can go straight to the home page, and you'll see an invitation there to read that article. And
brilliant.
It's definitely. And in terms of understanding the victim triangle, it's wonderful for that.
Oh, thank you so much, Lynn. This really has been such a pleasure.
I enjoyed it so much, Leanne. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It was so much fun to dialogue with you. Yeah.
Thank
very
you.
Much fun.
Oh my goodness. Wasn't that an incredible show? I just love Lynn. Here are my takeaways. The archetypes on the victim triangle are defense strategies that we take on out of a core belief about who we are in the world, who we are in our family, who we are as an identity that we take on based on the feedback we've been getting from the world around us. As we become aware of and begin to consciously participate in the story we've been living, we can actually use the same archetypes that we were using to keep us in it to now begin to liberate ourselves. Spotting, for example, when we're being the victim and projecting the persecutor onto someone else. As we move more into what Lynn calls observer consciousness and we call sovereignty, we're able to watch the victim triangle stories play out within ourselves and others without being compelled to move into the persecutor to make ourselves and others wrong for living what is a deeply human story. If you'd like to get notes and links for everything we spoke about this week, do hop on over to the show notes, and they're at primalhappiness.co/episode 341. And there's a number of links that Lynn referenced that you can get right there. And if you don't want to miss out on next week's episode, head on over to Apple Podcast, Stitcher, or your app of choice and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get each episode straight to your device as soon as it comes out. Thank you so much for listening. You've been wonderful. Catch you again next Tuesday.